availability. End of the week, we'll have 4 days next week. We'll do Senate bills, I think, until Monday. Then the Senate will be doing House bills, and the House will be doing Senate bills. So I think our last committee meetings are scheduled for Monday. Sometimes we have some special meetings later, but you want to, pretty much that's the schedule. So why don't we open it up for questions?
How's it going on the budget?
We're working on it. We're a little concerned, I think, about the making sure that we don't have the structural imbalances that we were trying to fix, but we're trying to work through the budget.
Any last minute funding requests, anything coming in that's going to be pretty big?
There always are.
Oh, I like that.
Senator Stevenson?
I got a whole list I accumulated on the floor today. Just keep growing. I started writing it on my sleep, but my arms aren't long enough.
What happens now that tax reform's been put off until likely a special session? What happens to the money that was set aside to fund the tax cut?
It'll be set aside, hopefully. Okay.
Well, how do you do that mechanically?
I'm not sure, but our staff will do it for us. Okay.
Well, and how much?
I think there was probably $75 million in the tax cut, so I assume that will be set aside.
Isn't there a possibility that the tax reform at this point would not take effect until another budget year, so you wouldn't need to set the money aside now?
Yeah, we're having discussions on the budget. Again, there's fairly significant concerns as to just the effect of not having tax reform in place. So.
Can you talk a little bit about those concerns?
I think they've been part of the process all session. So.
But I mean, in terms of putting together the budget, knowing that you're not going to, because the bill itself was revenue neutral until it had a tax cut in it, so it wouldn't have altered how much additional general fund revenue you have, for example.
I think we're going to have concerns until we fix the problem, and I think that's just a knot in our stomach. I think we went back to the original budget, if you remember the numbers, and maybe Senator Stevenson can remember them, but the year-over-year increases, one time and ongoing, were significantly more in the education budget than they were in the general fund budget, and that's the problem we're trying to fix.
Right.
And I think we've talked a ton about taking millions of dollars out of the education budget to fund the general fund, and that's a trend that we're trying to stop.
But the bill wouldn't fix that for this budget year.
No, you're right. You're right.
So that's why I'm wondering if there's something that I'm missing here that.
But I think it will in future years. I think they're just concerned.
Right. No, I know it's a future concern, but as far as putting together this year's budget, does not doing tax reform have an impact other than deciding whether to set aside money for the tax cut?
I think we're talking to the House and just having good discussions. Okay.
So we have some funding numbers today.
Senator Stevenson, did you get an update on the
Ben,
funding numbers?
Representative Lass was just over here. We did not feel that we were not comfortable with adding anything to the numbers we had 2 weeks ago. There's no definite trend there. There's no behavior shifts. And so what we did was just accepted the numbers that we had 2 weeks ago, and that's what we'll work through a budget on.
Okay. Other questions?
Do we have any idea, and maybe I get this later, but how many bills were introduced? Because I'm seeing bills still being filed today.
Oh, I don't know, but where's Senator Buxton? Let's see if we can't. Andrea, can you help us with it? I saw a list. There were 200 and almost 300 in the Senate and over 500 in the House. So I'm going to guess around 800, but we'll see.
You're talking about total that have been
introduced, not opened. The number that have been requested are well over 1,000, probably 1,200, 1,300 bills. But introduced,
numbered.
numbered, I would guess around 800, but I'll go get you a number. That's a good question. About this time of the session, we should be getting toward the end of the introduction of bills.
They're still being filed apparently.
Yeah. I think we read 2 or 3 or 4 in today. So, but that's how it works. So, other questions?
Do you think a special session is going to happen?
Absolutely.
You have no doubt.
Well, I guess there's doubt that we won't get some type of resolution, but that's really not an option for many of us, so we're going to work hard to get a resolution.
Correct me if I'm wrong, when .05 passed, there was talk of a special session at that point too. I realize this is a different issue, but it never happened. And the sense I have is that in order to get the call, you need to have consensus. And consensus has been elusive. Is it possible, maybe a rhetorical question, possible that you don't find consensus, there is no special session,
That's
gets kicked to next year?
I suppose that's possible. We have a little different scenario, although the governor is, as you remember in the press conference yesterday, he was very supportive of a special session, but we also have the option of the legislature calling themselves into special session. So that's another tool right now that we didn't have back then. But we're working for consensus, and there'll be no. We'll work very hard to try to make that happen.
President,
Yes, go ahead.
there was, not counting resolutions, there was 270 bills filed in the Senate.
200 how many?
270, not counting resolutions, and
That may be old. I thought there were more than that. Go ahead.
that's today.
Okay.
And 489 in the House.
So you probably need to add a few for the resolutions, because I've seen over 500. Okay. And is Don getting that information? Okay. All right. So we're going to work hard. You know, I was actually hoping that we'd get some rest after the session, but I kind of think we now have homework. And I'd also say, you know, that we talked about a Hail Mary earlier in the year, and it may not have been caught, but sometimes overtime is the best part of the game. So,
To that end, do you envision, and this notion has been, I guess, bandied about a little bit, maybe, I don't know to what degree, but a listening tour, if you will?
Senator Vickers, why don't you talk about it? You talked a lot about that and some of the feelings you've had.
It's interesting to hear the dialogue. And so, the dialogue was early, the last few weeks has been basically people throwing pitchforks, and now after the announcement yesterday, it was really interesting because all of a sudden the messages that I'd been receiving and business people I've been talking to, the message changed from, I expected to hear, well, you finally came to your senses, those kind of, that's not what I heard. I heard that, thank you for putting a pause on it, but we're here to help. We want to be involved in finding solutions. So definitely, we've got to engage as many segments of the population and the economy as we can in finding those solutions. So yeah, I definitely need to be reaching out and finding various ways to reach out on whether it's official listening tour or something, and engaging the community in this decision. It's a state policy. It's not a House policy. It's not a Senate. It's not a governor policy. It's a state issue, and hey, we need to. I think if nothing else, people more recognize that there is an issue, and now let's get together, figure it out, and we'll solve it.
So you wouldn't be opposed to a listening tour around the state to get feedback?
No, absolutely not.
No, and I this has been at the beginning of the session, I think everyone talked about the problem, and everyone talked about the problem being very difficult to solve. And the House has done a phenomenal job at setting the stage. And we've had a lot of discussions, a lot of information. And the Senate, we've had a lot of senators, Senator Hemrick and Senator Fillmore and others that have worked very hard. We got data on business inputs for the first time yesterday morning. And I haven't actually seen them. Senator Hemrick keeps telling me he's going to show them to me, but I haven't had time to look at them. And we've come a long ways, and I feel like we're close to a really, really great policy. But to the credit, and I would say this, I can't imagine after you've worked so hard and the House worked hard, I know how I feel. I feel like, you don't want to quit. You want to get that ball across the end zone, but sometimes you have to take a pause. And I think everyone's credit, but especially the House's credit, they want to get it right. And we talked about getting it right, and we won't quit till we get it right. And I think we're all working together to that end. So I don't sense anything else. I've never sensed a unity as strong as it's been between the governor's office and the Senate and the House to fix a problem.
Will that fix still include property taxes, or, income taxes?
Property tax may be an idea,
yeah,
who
yeah,
knows?
let's throw that in the
We
mix.
haven't gone that direction.
No,
but
it wasn't complicated enough. Let's do that.
We can throw that one into the mix too.
Is that part of your solution?
You want to
Reaching out.
Don't listen to me.
You
recommendation, by the way.
you may get nominated to be on the task force.
Will you talk about income taxes as part of that? There was that income tax reduction and then those 3 targeted tax
I actually
bills.
think the House hit that one right on. I actually thought the drop in the income tax, which gave more stability, moved some money into the general fund, which we're struggling with. But then the tax cut, the $75 million, was programmed into sales tax to help drop the rate and to be able to give some relief there. So I actually think they got a lot of things. They worked so hard, most of it right. And I think that was pretty balanced. Okay?
So that'll continue to be part of the discussion going forward. It's really the business input piece that the pyramiding that you need to work on
Yep.
most closely. The structure will look very similar.
Yes, and I think everyone was committed to do that, it's just we ran out of time to look at it. So the number of bills, so you've got them. Introduced to the Senate, into the Senate, 292. Into the House, 538. Bills and resolutions, okay? So that's it's 800 and some 832 bills.
So I got a comparison. Is that the one that has the comparison?
Yeah, comparison. Last year there were, 538 this year to the House, 526 last year. So it looks like they're a few ahead. And 573 into the Senate last year. 273 into the Senate last year, and 292 this year. So a few more. Okay.
Thank you.
As of today.
There's probably more to come.
Well,
sadly.
we may read a few in this afternoon and get them to committee on Monday, okay? The Rules Committee's ready to have another meeting if we need them to.
Caucus today? Are you caucusing every day, basically?
Yeah, we are.
We just
So
went
we
out
are.
to caucus
Yeah.
every day.
Probably talking a little bit about the budget. What else might we talk about?
There's really just, there's a couple of bills we're talking about. It's a little light today, actually.
Senator Reeve, anything you've got? Good to have you here.
We're just appreciative that we are taking some time to study this process for the tax reform.
Okay. Anybody
Beyond-
else?
Besides the budget, what else do you think is key between now and the end of the session?
538 bills in the House and 292 in the Senate. Our thanks.
Are you doing a bill prioritization today? Will you have that finished? for
You're talking about out for the board?
EAC? Yeah,
Oh, EAC.
yeah. Today at 6. Will you have the bill of
Budget
bills?
prioritization?
Yeah, the bill of bills list.
We're working on that.
Yeah,
With
we're
our staff. I think
So-
we
Yeah, we got staff
actually,
working right now.
Yeah.
We'll see what
I
happens.
think we wore them out a little bit with tax
Yeah.
reform,
Yeah.
so we're getting a little space.
Because you usually try to get that done the Friday before, right?
And we are working, okay?
Okay.
Thank you. Thank
Thank you
you.
for your time, folks.
You bet, thank you.